We are now going to speak about meaningful occupations in relation to older adults. This is going to be an ongoing conversation throughout the semester. So, this is just to refresh your minds about your foundational courses and some of the theories you may have learned there. And again, apply them to older adults. So, the search for meaning. Meaning is a core element of human experience. Engagement in meaningful occupations in later life is associated with better physical and emotional health, greater life satisfaction and subjective well being, longer life, and positive aging. Identifying meaningful occupations is a process. Everything we do has a meaning. As an OT, we would never just demand that someone removes a rug from their home because it's a fall hazard, but everything needs to be a conversation. That rug may have a significant meaning to that individual. Later life is characterized by significant change in physical activity, change in roles, change in family constellations, change in living arrangements. All of these changes can present daunting challenges in the absence of a sense of purpose and meaning. There is a direct link between engagement in a meaningful occupation and positive aging. Ask yourselves, why do people love OT and have a strong memory of an OT doing something special for them? It is because we look at a person in many different angles. We need to know our role and when something's out of our league. But how do we get to know people? This is where we establish the therapeutic relationship with the client. This is a higher level thinking course, so we need to start making these important connections. Definitions of meaning. Meaning can be thought of as the extent to which people comprehend, make sense of, or see significance in their lives, accompanied by the degree to which they perceive themselves to have a purpose, mission, or overarching aim in life. Consistent with fundamental beliefs of occupational science, and it's a challenge later in life defining meaning because of the reduction in expected roles. So I ask you as students, what role changes do older adults go through? I want you to think about this. Two quick examples that I can list are if they do have children, these children may have their own lives now, and they may even have their own children. And how does that change the individual's role within the family system? Another big one we will talk about much more in your Older Adults 2 course is retirement. What happens when someone loses that worker role that they've been doing for maybe 40 or more years? Conceptualizations of meaning. A philosopher offered a three-part definition that includes achieving purpose, expressing intentionality, and creating internal harmony. Baumeister suggested that meaning represents a coherent worldview identified by each individual's choices among the culturally and societally available options. Person, Eraldson, Eklund, and Iwertson describe meaning as a central part to understanding occupations. Only when the task has been chosen and carried out by the person does it become an occupation. Occupation and meaning. Meanings are highly individual in later life. Just like we were saying, only until the person performs the task or the activity or the occupation themselves does it establish meaning to them. There is a lack of clarity about what constitutes meaningful occupation in later life. Change in performance skills, client factors, and environmental circumstances that characterize later life require adjustment and activity. Occupational value is the individual's assessment of the importance of the activity, which informs meaning, just like we were just saying. Now I'm going to speak about different themes of meaning in later life. Erikson, and now note this is in 1963, said that major tasks of later life are generativity, like productivity and creativity, versus stagnation, and ego integrity versus despair. Neugarten in 1975 described acceptance of imminent death, coping with increasing infirmity, dealing with care decisions, and maintaining social ties as important developmental tasks of later life. A problem with these lifespan theories that were developed before they were developed before it became clear that later life would extend substantially in duration. Go back to one of the first lectures where we talked about the differences in life expectancy a few decades ago versus now. It's unlikely that in 1963, Erickson anticipated that later life might last more than 2 decades. Levinson in 1986 described two stages for older adults. The first is a transition stage, during which tasks involve coping with physical decline and moving from formal authority to more of an informal life structure. Second, in late adulthood, decreasing concern with formal authority, status, and formal rewards. Take some time to think about how this might apply to the older adults in your life, whether that's a family member, a neighbor, a friend, someone in your community center. Cohen, in 2005, stated that middle age is 35 to 65 years old, and individuals experience a midlife reevaluation, a liberation phase, and a summing up. He stated that individuals age 75 or older experience an encore, an opportunity for reflection and continuation, and spirituality that lasts until death. Cohen placed particular emphasis on the importance of creativity in later life, suggesting that creative capacity is maintained or enhanced with age. Themes of meaning. These can be clustered into four main themes. Instrumental meanings, things like self-care and meeting daily needs. As performance skills diminish with age, habits may become disrupted, requiring greater attention. The things that seemed easy before might not be so easy. It might take more time to do or more focused cognitive attention on them. These activities become imbued with important meanings, particularly in terms of the individual's perceptions about independence versus dependence. Evaluative meanings, happiness, life satisfaction, subjective well-being, and quality of life. Existential meanings. This covers spirituality and/or religion. And self-identity. These themes are not completely separate. For example, instrumental activities cannot be completely separate from evaluative meanings or self-identity. The themes are just separate in order for us to recognize the importance of each individual aspect. Spirituality is identified by the AOTA practice framework as a form of occupation whose central purpose is to address existential meanings. Both religion and spirituality are associated with positive outcomes in later life. Self-identity, to a great extent, it means we are what we do. Thus, a fourth meaning of occupations in later life is the maintenance of self-identity. Discovering through occupation that it is possible to experience positive personal growth and continue to make a contribution to the world enables older adults to sustain a sense of hope both in the present and in the future. What are the essential elements of occupations that provide a sense of control? Things that we specifically look at: perceived usefulness and competence, maintaining personal control, and ability to sustain physical activity. Also, individuals who are able to provide social support for others as well as receive it typically experience a greater sense of mastery. So let's go back to our ICE learning activity about Joe. How could you figure out what is meaningful to Joe? Are there specific assessments that you could use? Are there specific interventions you can implement or ways of talking to her that you can use? I want you to take a minute and think about this. We're now going to speak about volunteering. This is a later life occupation in which many older adults participate. Think about older adults who volunteered to assist with your program projects this semester. Maybe people who will be entering your actual group programs and protocols next semester, or the older adults who agreed to be interviewed by you. Or maybe you did an older adult home assessment in one of your previous semesters in the assessment course. So why do you think they do this? These opportunities for volunteering are socially engaging. It allows them to help others. It allows them to maintain their identity, and it's giving their life purpose. OT theory and meaning. The occupational therapy practice framework and the International Classification of Function both address meaning and competence as central to quality of life. By having a model or a framework that organizes the kinds of questions and forms of intervention, it ensures that the therapist works with the client to establish a helpful, comprehensive, and meaningful plan. Selective optimization with compensation suggests that older adults recognize that they need to alter their occupations. In doing this, they attempt to optimize function wherever possible. Where optimization is not possible, older adults compensate either by modifying occupations or by selecting an alternate occupation to meet their needs. An array of instruments are available to assess meaningful occupations. On the next few slides, I'm going to list some. So, spirituality, these are just some, and this is not a comprehensive list. There are more out there. But the Spirituality Index of Well-Being and the Spiritual History Scale in 4 dimensions is a place that you can start looking at. When looking at life satisfaction, you can use the Life Satisfaction Index or the Satisfaction with Life Scale. For occupational profiles, I'm sure you've all used the COPAM by now, the Canadian Occupational Performance Measure. And for meaningfulness, Engagement in Meaningful Activities Survey. Interventions to promote meaning. A wide variety of late life activities can support well-being and meaning. Helpful occupations encourage expression and management of identity and those that connect the elder to the past, present, and the future. Once meaningful occupations have been identified and their characteristics explored, intervention can focus on what the practice framework calls create, promote, establish, restore, maintain, modify, and prevent. Occupational therapy interventions that emphasize meaning include wellness, meaningful occupations, of course, reminiscence, which we will talk about more in our dementia and Alzheimer lecture, even more, life review, spirituality, and of course, promoting mental health, social functioning, functional status, and physical functioning to support meaning. Here are some articles that provide some evidence for the growing body of literature that supports meaningful occupations, improving health and quality of life. Please review if you have time to look at some of these or you want to have more information about this topic. And here are your references for the full policy, advocacy, and meaningful occupations lecture. Thank you.